Hey, welcome into the Five Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Alan, here with another of the Vibe Check series. I'm joined today by Jay Forster of Locked On Blue Jackets to get a vibe check on the season so far and kind of what we can see down the stretch. Jay, how's it going, man? We got Olympics in full swing today. We actually have a couple games on the docket.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying how stupid the Sweden-Italy game has been. That's what's happening as we're actively recording this.
Yeah,
I'm having a great time with it.
yeah. Was
The
it
Olympics are
a
always
two
fun.
goals against on 4 shots, as I saw?
Yep, Phil Gustafsson doing his best, but unfortunately, it's not going great for him. So we'll see. They've pulled it back, but I'm still kind of hoping that Italy pulls out the upset there
There we
because
go.
that's what the Olympics is about.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so again, while the Jackets don't have like any advantageous schedules in the more popular playoff formats, guys are freaking wagging right now. 7-game winning streak and then 10-1 since the coaching change. Should be playing meaningful hockey down the stretch. Which can be just as good for fantasy. I think it was you retweeted. They're projected to bump the Isles by half a point. If I read that right.
Yeah, so hockeyviz.com, which is run by Micah Blake McCurdy, who's a wonderful advanced stats guy. And he does these like points projections where he'll update, and it basically shows you what how their trajectory has changed over the past 2 weeks. And the Blue Jackets have just gone up and up and up since the Rick Bonus hiring.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, they are, I believe, projected to finish with, I think he had them at 96.5 points. And the cutoff playoff line was 96 points. So because you don't get half points in the NHL, basically they're projected to finish at 97 points, which will put them in that third Metropolitan seed, which still a lot of hockey to play. Nothing, nothing set in stone yet, but they have done a fantastic job since Rick Bonus came in. They've really clawed their way back into contention, and what I thought was kind of a dead season, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people did. But yeah, so how did you, I guess, first off, how did you get involved with Locked On? And then are you involved with any other Blue Jackets media at all? Or
so I kind of became for some context, I kind of became a Blue Jackets fan by accident. I got into hockey around about the Sochi Olympics, actually, just before, which is, timely. And the hot team at then was the Blackhawks, right? Everyone loved the Blackhawks. They'd just come off that incredible cup run in 2013. I got into hockey and was like, okay, let's pay attention to this team. And then my best friend ended up going to OSU. And so I spent a bunch of time in Columbus, and we could get Blue Jackets tickets in the lower bowl for $25 for Student Rush. Incredible, right? So we went to a bunch of Blue Jackets games, and I was like, oh, I've gotten attached to all of these these people, these guys who are not great at hockey, but they sure do try hard. And that was again 2014, so it's been over 10 years now. I've kind of been on and off in terms of covering them. I covered them on my own. I built a blog essentially that was very, very bad, and I don't remember what it was called. And then I kind of dipped in and out of hockey coverage over a while, and then it was the bubble, the COVID playoff bubble.
Oh, playoff bubble, yeah.
Blue Jackets had that playoff round against Toronto, and a friend was working for Locked On at the time, and she messaged me. She was like, "You're the only person I know that cares about the Blue Jackets. We don't have a Locked On Blue Jackets guy at the minute. Will you come on my show and talk to me about the Blue Jackets, because nobody else will?" And so I did. The guy at the manager for Locked On NHL reached out and was like, "Hey, I think you did a great job. Do you want the job?" Essentially.
Nice. Okay.
And I was like, you know what? Sounds like fun. It's not like I'm doing anything. It's not like I'm going out places. It's summer 2020. And it's been almost 6 years now. And it's been a ton of fun.
Nice. Oh, man, speak the bubble cup, man, that 5-0 game, that was nuts.
Yeah, that was great. So that game started, I think, because so again, for people who haven't been able to tell my accent, I'm in the UK. I'm UK based. So I was like, this game's amazing. I think it started at like 3 p.m.
my time. Eastern. Yeah. Oh,
and I was like, or it might have started a little bit. I was like, this is great. I'll be able to record a podcast when the game is done, and then I can go to bed at like a normal time. And then seven periods of hockey later, it's like 2 a.m. I'm still on my couch. I'm like, I can't go to bed because I have to watch the end of this game.
And it can end any moment.
Yeah. Like, yeah, exactly. And yeah, so that was my first real experience of the playoff overtime insanity
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you kind of hinted at it earlier. We said, yeah, this is kind of looked like a lost season at first. Like what do we think happened between last year and this year? I know Raj, one of the other guys on Five Hole, was kind of like, yeah, like a lot of their offense was good vibes, like everything that happened with Johnny Gaudreau. Like, I mean, do we think that just didn't carry over this season, or Everson flew too close to the sun, got too fancy with things?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of things at play, right? And like none of them we really are ever going to know because they're not going to talk about this kind of thing. But I suspect that, yeah, a little bit like an emotional hangover from last season. You know, they did excuse me, they pushed so hard and everyone overperformed basically, right? Like again, Adam Fantilli scored 30 goals as a 20-year-old. No one saw that coming. Zach Werenski just decided to be a point a game player as a defenseman. Sean Monahan was phenomenal. And I think they put a lot of physical and emotional energy into making the playoffs. Obviously, they fell just short. But I think what happened was because they overperformed last year, they created expectations this year. And I don't think the off-season moves that were made were enough to really push this team past what they did last season. You know, like they didn't really add. They added depth guys. You know, Charlie Coyle, who has turned out to be a fantastic ad, but he was their main ad, right? And people were like, well, what if they get Mitch Marner? What if they get Nikolai Ehlers? What if they get Brock Besser? What if they get Aaron Ekblad? Like, what if they get Noah Dobson? All of these potential pieces that they were going to add, and they ended up getting 33-year-old Charlie Coyle, you know?
Yeah.
Not the most stunning offseason. I don't think they really did enough to push them over the hump. And then the season started, and I think Dean Everson did a fantastic job last year, considering the circumstances.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, you get the job, and then 2 months later, your star player dies unexpectedly, horribly, tragically. And now you have to come into this room full of players that you don't know and lead them through this. And I think he really had a hands-off approach last season that really, really worked. I think he kind of just let the players do, again, like you said, vibes, right? It was a very vibes-based season. And I think they were like, okay, well, imagine what we can do if we give them a little bit more structure, give them a little bit more of a firmer hand. And I think he went too far the other direction. I think he overcoached this team and didn't really know how to push back on that. I think the players didn't like it. And I think it really kind of turned into a case of he doubled down on a lot of things. Like word on the street is he alienated a lot of players. I have a source that says that he and Zach Werenski did not get on at all, which is a problem because, again, if you're looking at Zach Werenski and you're looking at the head coach, you're like, well, if I can only keep one of these guys, I'm going to keep Zach Werenski, right? And again, we'll never know this, but I suspect that Zach Werenski was probably quite a big driving factor in you've got to get Everton out of here, man, to Don Waddell.
Werenski having just a season. But yeah, Monahan, you mentioned earlier, definitely taking a step back this season. Time on ice, not down a whole lot, but looks like he was kind of starting to heat up for the Olympic break. Do you think this is something maybe that could be course corrected rest of season and he ends up being a 55-60 point player? Or I think, like we mentioned before the show started, that Fantilli was kind of getting some bum line mates earlier in the season. Do we think his quality of line mates isn't enough to get him back up to like a 55-60 point season at least?
So Monahan's a weird case because Monahan has been injured basically all season but has played through it. And I'm a big proponent of if the player is hurt, then they shouldn't be playing. Allegedly, it's a pain management thing. It's not something that he's going to make worse by playing on it. But I do wonder if, when the initial injury happened, if they shut him down for a month, 10 games, whatever, would it have healed by itself? Or is it, as what I suspect the case might be, the offseason hits and he's going to immediately get surgery on his hip, his wrist, whatever is bothering him right now. But yeah, Monahan's had a rough go of things. He again suffered with inconsistent line mates, inconsistent ice time in terms of, I think a lot of the players, especially with Everson this season, didn't really know whether they were coming or going. More so the young players like Igor Chidakov, for example, who has gone to Pittsburgh and is having a fantastic kind of resurged there. Kent Johnson has really struggled this season again, I think, because he doesn't know whether he's coming or going. But even the veteran guys, like I think Sean Monahan has struggled again partially because of the injury, partially because of the coaching style change, I think. But yeah, I think like you did, he started heat up before the Olympic break, and I think honestly, him sitting down and not doing anything for 3 weeks might just be exactly what he needed.
I'm hoping we see a lot of that for some of these guys, or like even worse. I know Elliot Friedman mentioned that there could be some guys that were just hanging on by a thread to play in the Olympics, and then maybe they just shut down rest of the season. Now that's over. But yeah, another player kind of, I don't know, has bounced around the lineup. Voronkov, he was kind of glued to that top line like last year, beginning of this year, until the coaching change. I saw him in the bottom 6. Now he's second line, but his time on ice has come down. Is that like maybe like a training thing that Bonus wants to use him differently, or teach him how to play, more offense or more defense like some of these coaches do?
Voronkov's a weird case because he is the first half of the season, he is fantastic. He struggles with his conditioning. He has the past 2 seasons, he's come out red hot. First 40, 50 games, he's been great. And then he's been a ghost for the second half of the season. And now we're starting to see it happen again. This year, I know during last summer, he basically got a talking to from the GM who was like, listen, we're going to sign you to an extension. You better do the work this summer to make it worth it. Because if you disappear halfway through the season again, then we're going to have issues. And it seemed like he put the work in. Again, started really, really strong. Has, I think, 1 5-on-5 point in the last 10 or so games, maybe. A lot of people are frustrated by him moving up and down the lineup. He's, I think, 3rd on the team in goals with 16 or 17. He leads the team in power play goals. Like, he is an effective player. And I think, again, he's found kind of a little bit of a resurgence playing on that line with Monahan and Ken Johnson on the second line, which is not a line I expected to work, because I think that's 3 very different players that don't necessarily have a lot of synergy with each other, but it's working right now. But yeah, Voronkov has always been a guy that his legs go at about this time of the year. And again, I don't know whether 3 weeks off will be good for him. Get him a rest, get him going again. But this is a guy that you need to be effective all season. And if you do get into the playoffs, I'm going to knock on wood here. That's a guy you need in the playoffs. He is built for the playoffs. He's enormous. He's got a bad temper. The power play. He is a massive net front presence. He's the kind of guy that shows up big in the playoffs if they get there. Unfortunately, right now he's really kind of struggling, and I do think it goes back to, is it the conditioning? Is he doing something wrong? And I do wonder if the organization is going to say, no, you're going to stay in Columbus this summer and train where we can see you, because he goes back to Russia in the summer. Obviously kind of just trains, not necessarily by himself, trains with some other Russians, but I do wonder if there's a kind of drive to improve his conditioning in a much more controlled environment, because clearly whatever he's doing right now works great for the first 3 months of the season and then kind of peters out.
Just accountability, it sounds like. And then another thing I've noticed in the coaching change is Evason seems really confident in just Jet Greaves. And to be fair, like that was what kept you in the playoff run to like the 11th hour last season. But now Bonus is going back to Elvis. Like, do we think this is, I've heard showcasing Elvis for a trade? Do we think this is a Bonus preference? I've heard something that Bonus kind of plays a system that could favor Elvis, kind of cover up some of Elvis's weaknesses.
Yeah, Elvis is such a weird goalie, man. Goalies are voodoo. Like I understand enough about goalies to make me dangerous. I played goalie in beer league for, like a decade. I understand the concept of goaltending. I don't understand Elvis as a goalie, because you see these flashes and he looks incredible, right? Like I think back to his rookie season, he had 5 shutouts over an 8-game stretch. Has never really hit that high since then, and I do think part of that is the 3 years before the Johnny Gaudreau incident, the Blue Jackets lost another player a goalie died in the off
Yes.
season, Matisse Lennox, who Elvis was very close with. Elvis was actually there when he died, and I think that really messed him up. And I think he hasn't really been the same since then. But that being said, this season when it started, the Blue Jackets were rolling both goalies. Elvis played one game, Jet played one game. Elvis played one game, Jet played one game, and they were getting excellent results. The problem came when the Blue Jackets went on the Western Canadian road trip. Elvis got sick, missed a couple games, didn't play well when he got back. And I think Everson a case of overcorrecting.
Overcorrected,
right?
We'll
play Jet. Jet's playing well right now. We'll play the hot hand. And unfortunately, what that did was Elvis got rusty. So when he was only playing once every 2 weeks, shockingly, he wasn't playing well enough to earn more starts. But it really turned into that kind of catch-22 of he needs to play better, but he needs to play more to play better.
I like one of the starts he got after like weeks was like, right?
So what they did was they played Jack Reeves until he fell over. Essentially, I think Jack Reeves had like 7 or 8 straight starts, including both halves of a back-to-back twice.
That sounds right.
Kid's good. He's not that good. He's still very young as well. He's only 24. This is his first full season. But again, Bowness comes in, and I think Elvis played the first 3 games under Rick Bowness, and then got sick again. So Jet came in, and since then they've rotated. They've gone back to that rotation of Jet plays, then Elvis plays, then Jet plays, then Elvis plays. And again, partially it's this hot streak that the Blue Jackets are on right now, but I believe since Rick Bowness took over, and I should have looked this up, Elvis, I believe, is 5-1 in the last stretch with like a 9-15 save percentage and a shutout in that time. Over the same stretch of time, Jet is 5-0, has I think an almost identical save percentage and 2 shutouts. And
that's why it's like I'm
playing well, but both goalies are playing well. And again, it's kind of incredible that you look at the beginning of the season when both goalies were playing and they were playing well. Then that stretch in the middle where they couldn't figure out how to fix the goaltending, and then Rick Bowness comes in and is like, well, what if we just alternate the goalies? It might be showcasing Elvis for a trade, but I'm more inclined to think it's just that you can't ride one goalie into the ground. It works for like 2 goalies total. Like it works for Connor Hellebuck, who will probably play up, like he generally will play 60 or more games for the Jets. It worked for UC Saros for years. In Nashville, he was another one. He would play, 62, 63 games a season. Doesn't work for every goalie. You have to be able to trust your backup. You have to be able to play him more than once every 2 weeks. And so I don't think it's a case of favoring one goalie or the other. I think it's literally just a case of, well, we have 2 goalies. We need to use
going back to what worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like one of the starts was like Elvis hadn't played in 2 weeks, and it's like, here's the Avalanche. Have fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a real it really felt like they knew that they weren't going to win that game, so they just kind of threw Elvis to the wolves.
Give him some laughs.
And I thought Elvis played fine in that game. In fairness, I don't know that the numbers necessarily benefited him, but Avalanche, and B, again, he hadn't played in 2 weeks, so he did as well as could be expected. I think it's not his fault that the team didn't score a single goal. So.
But I think someone fire Charlie Coyle saw a recent bump to power play 1 and seen a 6-game 12-point streak. Like, how did he wind up there? Was this like we kind of touched on earlier, the Voronkov kind of petering out, like Bowness just tinkering and said, hey, like I trust this guy in this deployment?
Charlie Coyle is one of those guys that I think coaches just innately trust him. Which is not a bad thing. And I think he's earned that trust again. He's been fantastic for the Blue Jackets. I think he's 3rd on the team in points right now, behind only Werenski and Marchenko. Like you said, he's got a 6-game point streak going. He had a hat trick a few games ago. He's been phenomenal for this team. I think he's really solidified this team down the middle. I don't love him on the first power play unit because I think that you can utilize him better than sticking him at the net front. Especially when you have someone like Voronkov, who you can just park at the net front, and because he's 6'5" and 250 pounds or whatever, it's tough for the goalies to see over, But yeah, Charlie Coyle is really just when you're hot, you're hot. Again, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to Charlie or to his line mates, but he's playing with Matthew Olivier and Cole Sillinger. You know, it's not like he's playing with out of this world line mates, but somehow he is one of those guys that he makes the players around him better. And he's really benefited. I think, he's benefited from this brick bonus coaching bump more than a lot of players, but just, I don't know, maybe it's because it's a contract year. He's looking for that big payday. I don't know, but I'm kind of, again, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially when you look at kind of, he was fine in Colorado, I think. The Bruins couldn't wait to get rid of him. And then he came to Columbus, and I was like, this is fine. They need a third line center. He won't be a downgrade on what's happening. I didn't love the trade at the time. I still don't love the trade at the time, looking back on it now, but I sure am glad that we have Charlie Coyle.
Yeah. And then, still Charlie Coyle here. So there's been names, him, Jenner thrown around in trade rumors. But obviously playoffs are in grasp now. You're 4 points back of the Isles, 4 points back of Boston for the wild card. It's possible. It's mathematically possible. Any word that they may, flip to buyers once everyone comes back from the Olympics, like any players that maybe, Columbus might be in on to acquire?
So I know that Don Waddell's big Olympics to-do list is basically reach out to all the UFAs. So the Coyle, that's Jenner, that's Mason Marshman, and Erica Branson is also a pending UFA. So he's going to touch base with all of those guys, and I think it really is going to depend on if those guys want to stay, then they get a new contract. Those guys are not going to be here as rentals. If they don't want to stay, I think they go. You look at the season Charlie Coyle is having. If you can't get a contract extension worked out by the trade deadline, essentially, you have to move him, right? You are going to get a massive return for someone like Coyle. Again, arguably Mason Marshman as well. You should get a pretty decent return for him. They paid a second and a fourth round pick for him, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah, it was, what was it? I think I saw something on Twitter that it was not really a joke, but they were just saying you essentially traded Chinikov for Marchment.
Essentially, yeah. Like they basically they got the second round pick that they traded for Marchment back from Chinikov and got a third round pick as well. So they made out slightly better in terms of the picks that they reaccrued. But Marchment is shooting at 40% with the Blue Jackets right now. So I don't think that's going to last.
Not sustainable.
But, I looked it up just before this. Actually, he's got 9 goals on 25 shots with the Blue Jackets right now. That's not sustainable. It's fun, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
again,
it's what we want in fantasy, but for real hockey, that doesn't.
It's gonna start falling off soon, which is fine as long as I was never looking at him. I was like, if we get 10 goals from him for the rest of the season, I'm happy. He's already on 9, so we're doing great.
There we go.
But again, he's a guy that Don Waddell has been trying to acquire for a while, so I think he's going to be priority. But you look at, does Jenner move at the deadline, even if the Blue Jackets are still in that playoff push? Does Gabranson move at the deadline? Probably not, because I don't know that there's much of a market there. But Jenner, for me, is a guy that is going to be really interesting.
Right, especially a locker room guy.
Great locker room guy. Very good middle six winger. Can play center if you need him to. Kills penalties. Plays on the power play. Is really weird. Boone Jenner is a really weird player, and I still haven't figured this out. But he's a guy that his own advanced stats are fine. He is a perfectly acceptable player. Anyone who plays with him gets this massive bump to their stats, which is wild. And I don't understand how or why that happens, but he makes players around him better while simultaneously not looking great himself. But I think Edmonton is a team that I think is in on Jenner. Again, if they can't figure out a contract with Jenner, I almost feel like you have to move him, right?
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do as an NHL GM is be sentimental, right? That's what kind of did the Blue Jackets in last season. Was they probably should have sold. They were not in the playoff race by the trade deadline. They were kind of hovering around there, but they had, obviously, Ivan Provorov was a pending UFA. They had a couple other guys that they could have moved. And the GM said, no, I don't want to move anyone out of this room because of the year that we've had. Completely understandable. In hindsight, they should have sold last year. They didn't. But, here we are.
Yeah.
Again, similarly, this year, Boone is the captain. He is the longest tenured Blue Jacket. He has been with the team since 2013. He's just hit 800 games for them. They want him to retire a Blue Jacket.
Right. Or, if not,
him,
we'll probably see his number
in the rafters. Yeah. He has been a great Blue Jacket. Unfortunately, for the good of the team, I don't know that they can keep him around.
Sure.
So it turns into what do you do with a guy like Boone Jenner, right? I think Charlie Coyle and Mason Marchment, you can keep those guys around. I think what you get from Boone Jenner, you get in other places for cheaper and from younger players. So it sucks. I hate when captains get traded. I hate when players that have only played for one team for their entire career get traded. Like, it's going to suck. Emotionally, it's going to suck. It's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. Sometimes addition by subtraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Will they do it? I don't know. But they've got 6 games after the Olympic break to figure it out. But I'm expecting at least one of Coyle and Marchment to sign an extension in the next kind of couple of weeks here.
Perfect segue. Mason Marchment, 9 goals, 13 points in the 14 games he's played since the trade. Does it sound like he might actually stay if he, stays for the rest of the season at least? Can we depend on him to stick in that like top line, maybe top power play role?
Marchment is a weird play. He's playing above his means right now, I think, but because he's gelled so well with Fantilli and Marchenko, I get it. I don't know that he is a long-term top line piece. I think he's a top 6 piece. I think he could fit in on the second line fairly well if the Blue Jackets find an actual bona fide top 6 or top line winger to replace him with, because at the minute they kind of just have a bunch of guys that might fit in there. Like you said, like I said earlier, shooting at 40%, that's not going to last. The contract is a weird one. Again, like I mentioned, Don Waddell really wants to keep him. Don Waddell has been trying to acquire him for ages. Mason Marchment signed in Dallas and was then traded to Seattle. Both of those are states without income tax. Right. And he will be leaving if he wanted to play in a state that doesn't have income tax, which is fair. If he wants to stay here, he's going to get less bang for his buck. Is it worth it? Right. If the team is winning, if he's having fun, if he likes it here, if he fits in well here, is that worth sacrificing, a chunk of change at the end of the day? I don't know. I know that the team would like to keep him around. It really depends on whether he thinks that this team is going in the right direction enough to want to stay here for, the next 3-4 years. Sure.
And then actually perfect. So if so you kind of mentioned if some of these guys move out, like Jenner, like Coyle, who's kind of next in line that we see could end up on, in the top 6 or on power play 1 kind of rest of the season?
That's tough because Ken Johnson is the obvious answer. He's kind of he got a little bit of a hit when Bonus came through. Has kind of flagged a little bit. Again, that second line is doing a lot of really great things, except score. They are winning puck battle. They're winning the puck possession game. They're creating a lot of. I know a lot of people don't like expected goals. I think expected goals are great, but they're winning the expected goals battle. They are generating more offense than they're giving up. They're just not putting the puck in the net with it, which is obviously a problem. But the line itself is playing fine. They're just getting unlucky. Ken Johnson, I think, is a prime guy to move up into that top line spot. If someone like Marchment goes, I think, again, it really depends on who goes and who stays. Cole Sillinger has played some time in the top 6. Dmitry Voronkov is a top 6 guy. You can even call up one of the kids. They've got Luca Del Bobaluz down in Cleveland, who is really knocking on the door in the NHL. You've got Luca Pinelli, a rookie, having a fantastic season in the AHL. I don't know that he's ready for full-time top 6 NHL minutes, but if you are going to move on from these guys like Coyle, like Marchment, then that's a perfect time, in my opinion, to really give the kids, an extended cup of coffee and be like, listen, here's Adam Fantilli and Kirill Marchenko for the next 10 games. What can you do with that? Can you keep up with them? And if you can, great. If you can't, well, we'll try again later.
Nice. And then last question: who's a player we may be underrating? Like, I think for me personally, I think like Matthew Olivier kind of flies under the radar a lot. I know even Tampa checked in on him. Well, a lot of teams checked in on Olivier at one point. But anyone, in your opinion, like who's someone that maybe is underrated on the Jackets?
Yeah, it's funny. Mathieu Olivier is one of those players that every single time a trade deadline comes up, or like some team is like, we need to get tough, like let's go get Olivier from Columbus, and I'm like, guys, Columbus is not letting Olivier go. Over Don Waddell's dead body is anyone taking Mathieu Olivier away from this team, which I do think is funny, because again, he's one of those guys that, like you said, flies under the radar. In terms of under the radar guys, I have a couple of options here. One of them is Denton Mateychuk, very young defenseman, only in his second full season with Columbus, and has been spent a big chunk of the season with Zach Werenski, which is not an easy job, and was keeping up. He is putting up points. He is holding his own defensively. He's playing with Ivan Provorov at the minute on the second pairing, and it's a small sample size, but of NHL defensive pairings that have played over 100 minutes together, they are allowing the least amount of expected goals of any pairing in the league. So he's a guy to watch out for. And then another guy, Damon Severson, I feel like has kind of flown under the radar this year. He was diabolical his first 2 seasons in Columbus. He was just awful. He was especially bad last year. This season, he's figured it out. I don't know whether he's changed his game, whether he simplified something, but he has been extremely, extremely good for Columbus this season. He's playing on that top pairing with Zach Werenski, so I don't know how much of that is a Werenski bump, but even when he was playing on that second pairing with Provorov, that pairing looked extremely competent, which is not something that I am used to from those two players playing together. They've usually been kind of an adventure, but Severson, he's putting up a surprising number of points. He's playing on the penalty kill. He's getting some power play time. He's really had a bounce back season. And I think, again, because of how good Werenski has been and how many minutes Provorov plays, you kind of forget that there are 4 other defensemen on the Blue Jackets, and Severson and Mateychuk, I think, have been really, really underrated this season.
Cool. And then, so last off, anything you want to plug, and where can people find you?
So you can find Locked on Blue Jackets wherever you get podcasts. We are on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, whatever you listen to your podcasts on. I know that all of the podcast apps are terrible, but we do our best. You can also find us over on YouTube. Locked on Blue Jackets is over there as well. You can find us on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets, where mostly I yell during the games about how stupid this team is and how they keep taking too many penalties. And then you can follow me on Blue Sky also at JAKOBFORSTER. And I believe that's all of the places that I can be found on the internet at the minute.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna hit that outro music. Thanks everyone for listening. Guy I'm talking to here. Hopefully get a few more teams, especially more playoff relevant teams. Maybe I'll just do other teams because it's fun. But good day, good night. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Adios, turd nuggets.